If your PS5 still lives on a TV that tops out at 60 Hz, you're leaving frames, clarity, and wins on the table. Stay to the end to see the 4K 240Hz beast that finally lets the PS5 stretch its legs at 4K 120 with true HDR punch. This video ranks 7 monitors from solid budget picks to elite options that pair beautifully with PS5 features like 4K at 120Hz over HDMI 2.1, HDR, All-M, and excellent input lag, plus honest notes on where each one slips up in real use. Expect quick takeaways on image quality, motion handling, console compatibility, ports, and who each screen actually suits, with a critical look at entries 7 and 6 and increasingly positive picks as performance climbs. 7. Sceptre C248W20RN series. This 23.6-inch curved 1080p VA is the classic budget door into gaming monitor territory, with a mild overclock to 75 Hz and built-in speakers for a tidy desk or bedroom setup. The 1800R curve adds a touch of immersion at this size, and contrast is respectably deep for casual PS5 play, especially in story games where the VA panel's blacks flatter darker scenes. Input responsiveness is fine for 60 FPS console output, and the footprint is compact enough to tuck beside a TV or on a secondary desk without dominating the space. The trade-offs show quickly on PS5. No HDMI 2.1, so you're limited to 1080p at 60-75 Hz, and the 250 nit brightness with basic HDR-less imaging means flat highlights compared to HDR-capable sets. Motion has visible VA ghosting in fast shooters, and the tilt-only stand plus single HDMI input constrains ergonomics and cable flexibility if you also dock a laptop or streaming box. It's a solid spare room or tight budget screen, but competitive players and HDR fans should keep scrolling. If your library skews toward indie, retro, or 60 FPS titles, the Sceptre delivers agreeable contrast and a gentle curve that softens the edges of a small panel without weird distortion. Just know you're not tapping PS5 showpieces like 120Hz modes in Call of Duty or the HDR sparkle in Spider-Man. This is the good enough for casual choice, not a console showcase. Number 6. SANSUI ESG27C1Q. Moving up in size and spec, the SANSUI steps into 27 inches and higher resolution refresh territory, positioning itself as an affordable curved gaming option for mixed PC console use. On paper, it promises the speed and clarity jump budget buyers want, and the curvature aims to boost immersion over a flat 27-inch. For PS5 users, though, the key limiter is still HDMI 2.1. Without it, you won't see 4K 120, and depending on the panel's native resolution, you may be relying on the console's scaling rather than pixel-perfect output. In practice, that means PS5 sessions feel better than the Sceptre due to size and motion handling, but still short of the wow leap you get when a monitor is built for 4K 120 with proper HDR. Curved 27-inch panels can also polarize. Some love the wrap, while others notice off-axis color contrast shifts at the edges from typical VA behavior. Consider it a serviceable stopgap if you split time with a PC and want a curved aesthetic, but the PS5-specific value is muted by the HDMI ceiling and console-first feature set missing pieces like guaranteed All-M VRR over HDMI 2.1. If budget must stretch carefully, this is the better spec sheet, still compromised for PS5 step, fine picture, better motion, but not yet unlocking the console's best modes. Competitive console gamers and HDR enthusiasts will be happier further up the list where HDMI 2.1 and higher brightness are table stakes. Number 5. KOORUI GN2. The KOORUI GN02 brings sharper rendering and cleaner motion than basic 1080p panels, making PS5 games look more detailed even when the console outputs at 60 or 120 Hz on supported titles. Textures get a subtle lift, and the larger canvas compared to 24 inches helps with HUD readability and cinematic impact in open-world games. While this isn't a flagship HDR screen, the overall contrast and color are a pleasing step above entry level, especially for late-night gaming where VA depth matters. As a practical console pick, the key is whether you get HDMI inputs capable of 120 Hz at the resolution you're targeting. When paired correctly, latency and motion feel snappy enough for shooters and racers. The stand and OSD on budget performance brands like KOORUI tend to be functional rather than premium, but once dialed in, the picture does the talking. For PS5 owners who want a meaningful upgrade without jumping to 4K, the GN02 hits that cleaner, faster, bigger trifecta on a sensible budget. If you're sensitive to VA ghosting, there can still be a trace in high-contrast transitions, but it's much less intrusive than ultra-cheap panels, and response tuning helps keep motion sharp in 60 and 120 FPS modes where the console supports them. It's a balanced value play where real-world gaming feels elevated without paying the HDMI 2.1 tax of the upper tier. 4. AOC C27G2Z. AOC's C27G2Z is a well-known value champion thanks to its ultra-fast refresh capability and consistent motion performance for the money, which translates nicely for PS5 titles that prioritize frame rate. Even when the console tops out at 120 Hz, a high ceiling panel with tuned overdrive keeps motion blur and trails in check, making it a strong pick for shooters, sports, and racing games. The 27-inch curved VA leans into contrasty, saturated visuals that flatter darker games and cinematic worlds without demanding pro-calibrated color. Practical perks include a gamer-friendly OSD and a stand that typically offers at least basic adjustment, helping you center up with the curve for best uniformity. Important because curved VA looks its best head-on. While HDR here is limited or absent in a meaningful sense, SDR punch is solid and consistent, which matters more on PS5 unless you step up to true HDR hardware. It's a sweet spot monitor for console players who live in 60 or 120 FPS modes and want motion quality that just works without fiddling. The main caveat is, again, HDMI 2.1. You'll enjoy great motion and responsiveness, but not 4K 120 or premium HDR. So manage expectations if you're chasing the most cinematic showcase for PS5 exclusives. For competitive-leaning console play on a budget, this is a very easy recommendation. Number 3. KTC H32S17F. KTC's 32-inch curved entry gives PS5 owners a bigger, more immersive canvas, and at this size, the curve enhances focus without feeling extreme the way tighter 1000R arcs can on smaller screens. With tuned response and solid black levels, it threads the needle between cinematic storytelling and fast motion clarity, so you can comfortably switch from Elden Ring to F1 without feeling like you compromised either way. The extra screen real estate is also a quality-of-life win for couch distance gaming if your monitor sits a bit farther away than a typical desk setup. KTC's recent panels have leaned into gamer-friendly features and clean firmware, which helps with quick input switching and sensible presets for console use. While you're still not in full 4K 120 plus HDR territory, the overall experience feels premium compared to budget 24-27-inch options, especially in perceived detail and immersion. It's a smart play for living room desks or hybrid desk couch setups where a 27-inch feels cramped, but an ultra-wide isn't your preference. The consistent theme continues. Without HDMI 2.1, this is about excellent SDR gaming with strong motion on a larger canvas, rather than exploiting every PS5 headline feature. For many, that trade is perfect: big, bold, responsive, and not ruinously expensive. Number 2. INN45C1R. If you crave immersion and multitasking, the INN45C1R's 45-inch 32:9 DQHD panel 50x120/40 is a showstopper, wrapping your field of view with a 1500R curve and delivering up to 120 Hz with HDR 400 and USB-C power delivery for do-it-all setups. Connectivity is excellent, including 2x HDMI 2.1, DP 1.4, and USB-C with charging, so swapping between PS5, PC, and a work laptop is painless, and PIP-PBP makes it a productivity monster by day, gaming arena by night. Color coverage and contrast are strong for a VA ultrawide, and the height tilt swivel stand lets you dial in the sweet spot across a very large panel. For PS5 specifically, remember the console outputs 16:9. The monitor will pillar box to keep the right aspect, so you won't fill the full 32:9 width in native console games, but you still enjoy the massive 45-inch height and cinematic presence. Where it shines is as a central hub. PS5 on HDMI 2.1 at 120Hz where supported, PC at 120Hz for ultra-wide titles, and a laptop over USB-C with charging, all without cable gymnastics. HDR 400 won't rival mini LED zones, but highlights have more pop than SDR-only panels, and the sheer scale adds drama even in standard dynamic range. If you split time between content creation, spreadsheets, and gaming, few monitors deliver this blend of immersion and utility. It's an incredible hybrid screen that still treats the PS5 well with 120Hz support via HDMI 2.1. For pure console purists who only want 16:9 4K and peak HDR, the top pick is better. This is the productivity plus console dream for power users. Number 1. Samsung Odyssey Neo G8. This is the PS5 showcase monitor, a 32-inch 4K panel with mini LED backlighting, quantum HDR up to 2000, HDMI 2.1 at 40 GB on both ports, and 4K at 120Hz support on PS5 with 422 chroma as per console limits. The Neo G8's native 4K means no scaling for PS5, while the mini LED local dimming delivers real HDR with searing highlights and deep blacks that make games like Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Forbidden West, and Spider-Man 2 look jaw-dropping. Input lag is excellent, all M and VRR support align with console features, and motion clarity is outstanding at 120Hz. Even though the panel can do 240Hz for PC, console gamers benefit from the speed headroom and tuned overdrive. There are practical considerations. The aggressive 1000R curve demands a centered viewing position and isn't ideal for couch co-op off-angle. But for a single-player head-on experience, immersion is unmatched at 32 inches. Samsung's matte finish keeps reflections down, and the build feels premium, with a stand and VESA options suited to desk arms for ideal ergonomics. The two HDMI 2.1 inputs mean PS5 and another HDMI 2.1 device can stay plugged in permanently, with DP reserved for a gaming PC if you run both. Critically for PS5, this monitor ticks the boxes that actually matter. Native 4K, stable 120Hz over HDMI 2.1, HDR that looks like HDR, and low latency with console-friendly behavior, including auto-switching to low-lag modes. If the goal is to unleash the console and get a next-gen picture and feel, the Neo G8 is the most convincing single-screen upgrade on this list. Final thought. For pure PS5 excellence, the Samsung Odyssey Neo G8 is the clear winner thanks to true 4K 120, real HDR via mini LED, and console-smart HDMI 2.1 features. If you want a powerhouse desk that balances productivity with immersive gaming, the INNOCN 45C1R is a stunning second pick with superb connectivity and scale. Budget and mid-range options deliver meaningful upgrades in motion and immersion, but the leap to HDMI 2.1 and mini LED HDR is where PS5 truly feels next-gen on a monitor.